He winds up the swing right there. Boom, already moving.
I'm feeling in my body like some discomfort because first of all that actually reminds me very much of Aikido. I don't know. What do you think? What's
it's yeah.
So we're going to look at some BJJ self-defense videos. What are you expecting to see?
Some of the videos I've seen on the net, they are teaching like the techniques in most cases are good ones, but in self-defense situation, do you want to really be on your back holding somebody's arm? Most cases I think not. If they are used as self-defense technique teachings, I'm kind of criticizing the fact that you shouldn't teach them to go and do an armbar on the street on somebody. And some things that I've seen is like you are guilty of the same things that some other martial arts are, that you are training a technique without actually fighting for it. You're not learning the technique against somebody who's really making sure that it's not going to work. And if you're teaching techniques in that matter, it's just shitty technique in the real place. But let's see.
Let's see. Yeah, maybe we'll also be surprised.
Talk about what you do if someone comes up and they're going to shove you.
If I'm intercepting as it's coming in, I'm going to knock it down here like this. I'm going to catch underneath here, and I want to drag this past my center line. This hand disconnects, and then I want to get behind him here. If it's already made contact here, then I'm going to pick up from the inside, circle around, and then make high contact here like this to drag this across here by the tricep or the shoulder. And once I get behind him, now I can decide what's going to happen next. I may just use this to shove him away and then like disconnect from the situation, get out of it. Or I may have to like subdue him a little bit more. So if that's the case here, then I may have to drag here and then get behind him here like this, and then look for something like a rear naked choke here or a short choke if there's no space allowed there.
Before I stop for a moment here, what's coming to your mind so far?
This is good.
It's good?
This is good.
What do you like about it?
Arm drag is definitely one of the best moves for self-defense. I've used it myself, and making sure you're behind somebody, it's going to be very, very good. But in this case, he's actually doing the right thing. He's making sure that the other one's balance is already off. So basically, he could just squeeze him down and drop him down, and there you have it.
There's this question in my mind that is coming. They are of equal size, and this is not addressed, like they're not saying, guys, women, or anything. So maybe that's, not intended to cover that in this video. But let's say it's a smaller lady against a bigger man. Would you still recommend that same approach?
The arm drags, yes. Taking the back, no. Because if you have somebody really big, the arm drag is very good as a maneuver to make sure that you are getting behind somebody, then you can create the timing to make it away from there. He said, if you are behind him, you can just push him away and make a run for it. So he already addressed the situation that in this case, you are behind him, you can run away.
That's something I appreciate as well, that they pointed out. You don't have to necessarily grapple and choke someone out, that you can run away. I think that's great.
So how would you handle if they're pushing with two hands?
The mechanic doesn't change. The thing doesn't really change that much, except this hand here, that's going to kind of mess me up because now I can't really yield. He's pushing both shoulders back. But there's a little easy fix from here. If he's pushing both, I just knock that one down too. So just go like up and down and then drag here and then get behind him.
He goes to push, boom, and it comes in again, and I can step back and catch. That compression on the wrist is painful, and my natural response is not boom.
That's actually the technique I showed you, making the grip.
Yeah.
So you can use that one, especially you can force somebody, inexperienced people, you can force them down using this one. Of course, if you're a smaller person, then it's going to be not so easy. It's a working technique, but making sure that you are able to work it against fighting opponents is going to be hard. But if you're a purple belt, yes, you can make people tap using this, and you can put them on the ground using this.
So I might be playing the devil's advocate here. I wonder if it's a bit concerning that the video does not necessarily say just knowing this technique is not enough. You have to drill it, you have to pressure test it, but at the same time, maybe we can't expect them to say that in every video. So
that is true. There is no, you can only make the technique to some level by just practicing against somebody like this. You always need to push it against people who are fighting off.
Essentially, we both liked the video, but I think I would have liked it even more if they would say that, because I imagine, if somebody writes down BJJ self-defense, street self-defense, they look at that video, never trained jiu-jitsu, and they're like, oh, okay, that's what I'm going to do. It's not going to work. And I think it's maybe it's important to say that. But maybe I'm asking for too much. What do you think?
I think that might be too much to ask, because people are like, if I'm showing a technique at the gym, I'm not explaining every detail how you need to do this and how you need to practice this against, because at the trainings I'm doing it.
So 10 out of 10, how much would you give for this specific video?
I think this is like very good techniques. I don't find anything to correct. It has to be 10.
Nice.
If I can't find a fault, then
yeah, it's like, why would you give a 9? My top 5 self-defense jiu-jitsu techniques to use against punches.
Where you need to have some self-defense techniques, and you will look like a superstar just by watching this video.
That's the part where I don't like. It's like you're gonna look like a superstar just by watching this video. I think that's a bit misleading information. If a random person is watching and that kind of encourages them to feel that just watching it is enough.
You are right in the way that nobody's going to look like a superstar by watching a video. Watching a technique is just too far away from the actual training.
You have to maintain and manage the distance of the fight or the altercation. You want to keep your opponent attacker at least 2 arm lengths away.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like this is playing that.
And managing the distance is like, that is all you. If you can't manage the distance, then you can manage it all.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice that he's starting with that instead of techniques.
Now, a good way to keep that person outside of your safe zone is with a push kick. Okay, the push kick, as you can see here, you bring your knee up and you just push it and you just...
Yeah, I think you need to train that, but I like the concept of push kick. What do you think?
Yeah. It's I think it's a valid technique. In most jiu-jitsu gyms, you don't just train it. That's
True.
So, like, if you have a training where you are training MMA style of jiu-jitsu, then you might train this, and then it's a very valid technique. But if you're only doing sports jiu-jitsu, I'm always want to emphasize people that if they want to learn something, they need to train it. Yeah. And that's just, I'll do this technique once and now I know how to kick. No. Yeah. If you try to kick somebody on their legs, in most cases, if you have somebody who has any kind of fight experience, he's going to just walk through your kick and punch you in the nose. I
haven't been to that many jiu-jitsu schools, maybe 10 at best, but then never saw training kicks, which would be good, but I guess very few jiu-jitsu schools teach kicks. Yeah,
it's even on my classes when I'm teaching how to use the grappling point, I don't teach kicks.
So I guess we can blame, because it's like when you're going to boxing, you're not going to be taught kicking either, but it's kind of interesting to consider that could be maybe a nice thing to add.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I once got some guy coming to me and started the fight, and his first technique was a kick to my knees. And what happened? Yes, he touched my knee with his kick, and I touched his nose with my fist. And so they managing the distance, and that part was very bad from his part. But the way he's doing is the right way. He's making sure that his balance is good. He kicks the leg, and the other one is losing the balance. So it's what he's doing is right thing, but you need to train this.
Right.
Actually.
Okay, one of my favorites for self-defense is the double leg takedown. My buddy Vince did a duck under. He changed levels, grabbed the guy around the waist, lifted him, and slammed him to the ground.
So what do you think about the double leg for self-defense?
Changing the levels on double leg is a valid technique, especially from MMA. I wouldn't go for double leg on any people on the street, because in most cases, if the other one knows how to handle double leg, it's not going to be very good for me. Or if he's a big guy, he just falls. In one case, he might fall on me, he might fall on his head. So there's like, you can use this technique, but there's risks involved to me and to the other guy. I wouldn't be surprised to see a jiu-jitsu practitioner doing this on a fight on the street. Because changing the level, that's really good advice. Because people don't realize that when you're dealing with self-defense, your vision is like this in many cases. When you're ducking under it, he doesn't know. It's like you are vanishing a little bit. Changing of the levels to avoid the punches is very good.
I'm also concerned that with a double leg, you're potentially going down. I guess you can stay up, but then there's always the multiple opponents question. But I guess you can double leg and run away.
Yeah, and like in this case, he drops the upper and goes for knee and belly.
Okay, and then you can still control the environment.
Yeah, and basically you can just jump up there.
The standing armbar. So one arm is going to come inside, grab the wrist. The outside hand is going to grab a little higher on the wrist. Keeping your posture back straight. Apply pressure to their elbow.
This is actually interesting to see, because I was in a kind of seminar where we did some self-defense stuff, and one of my responses to somebody pushing me was this, actually. So, but there is no, I didn't see an armbar in here.
I guess like
Here.
he's putting pressure here.
Yeah, if you are good, you can do that.
Yeah,
But in many cases, I would say getting into level where you can submit people straight from standing and put it in the ground
it's not beginner stuff, right?
It's not beginner stuff.
So overall, how much would you give this video? Would you give it 10 as well?
The actual techniques, yeah, I would say they are like, there's nothing to say that
They're bad. Yeah.
that is bad. Maybe taking a point away from the fact that just watching these videos in the beginning.
Yeah, that's a strange point. That's kind of like, why would you say that?
I mean, or actually maybe he has a point on the distance management. If you realize about the distance management,
You're already so much more safer.
Yeah, you're a little bit safer in that sense.
So I guess that point that you said brings it down to a 9, 8, somewhere like there, 5.
No, I mean, it's not as good as the first one.
Right.
So just to make a difference, let's chop half a point from it.
Okay.
So let's make it like a 9.5.
9.5. Anything that comes to your mind?
Here was the part where they're going on the ground and making the submission. I think that's the only thing I'm criticizing on Jiu-Jitsu self-defense. While the armbar is definitely a working technique, if I want to armbar somebody who's pushing me on the street, yeah, I can do it. But the fact that you would go on your back, it's a very risky situation, even if you don't have many attackers, because you might end up in a situation where you end up having more attackers.
So I guess there's two sides to this. People are putting up stuff about self-defense online, and I guess part of the responsibility is for the person to be smart, to watch this and be like, okay, well, I should maybe do this, I shouldn't do this. Watching videos is not enough. But I think a lot of people don't get it. They don't have that education. So for me personally, I feel like I would appreciate if videos like this would have some disclaimers. They'd be like, don't go on the back, this is the last resort, or you have to pressure test this and train, watching is not enough. It's like, I guess, I don't know, maybe again I'm asking too much, but what do you think?
Yeah, could be a good advice, because people who are watching technique videos, they might end up think that, yes, I will pull this off.
He winds up the swing right there. Boom, already moving. Blocking, step out. Two options from here. One, I either just yank this down and rip his shoulder out. The more gentle version, we're just going to apply downward pressure here, and he's going to slowly drop his back.
I'll be honest, for me, there's like, I'm feeling in my body like, some discomfort, because first of all, that actually reminds me very much of Aikido. I don't know, what do you think? What's...
Yeah, it's, yeah. Sorry, but that's making a grip on somebody. I don't think he's done this against somebody who's coming with a knife on an intention. Even gripping somebody who's coming with full force like this, making the grips and making a fine grips on the hand is. So I don't think that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Making the grips, especially in a stressful situation,
right,
it's gonna be terrible. Your grips are gonna suck. They're gonna be bad. You're gonna miss the grips. This is something I wouldn't teach anybody.
It's interesting because it almost seems like it doesn't seem pressure tested.
Yeah, it doesn't seem Jiu-Jitsu.
Right. It seems like this is like the thing we explored in the Aikido knife defense video. It's like somebody designed it, they teach it, but it's not like, okay, now let's put it under pressure, because I think under pressure that they would realize, okay, this is not really good.
Yeah.
And also to just like stepping in and trying to catch the knife at that particular place, and it's just like, I guess there's a low percentage that it could happen, but it's like, why would you go for it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
But the thing is, it says it's Helio Gracie self-defense number 63.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. I think this is pretty terrible.
Pretty bad advice, right? A friend of mine already analyzed this. He pressure tested.
Right, but you don't drink. Boom.
1, 2 at the same time, and a step forward. And then my hand, touching the vital organs right here. As I pull this a little bit, my hand overlaps my own hand, and then I roll him forward. Look at my one hand in front of his chest, so he can't lean forward. So I lift up my elbow, and he drops the knife.
You're smiling. It's not very good, is it?
I think this is missing the same things that stopping the knife hand using just a little bit more your hand in the way and making a fine grip from the other hand. So you would have to be a really wizard to do this.
Right. I think that's the thing. It's like, it seems like a very low percentage technique to me. Like it's very fine. It like requires fine motor skills, like very good timing. Like it requires like the perfect conditions and things to fall into place. And while the knife, from what I gather, it's like a super chaotic weapon. There's adrenaline and everything. It's like my question is like, why would you go for this complex, questionable technique when you could go for something much more rudimental?
The knife hand isn't controlled at all.
Right.
There's nothing here to stop him from twisting it like this, and you're gonna get wounds on your hands on this part. So there is no control on the knife hand actually.
Right. Yeah.
Like you can swing it, and probably he's gonna swing it if you are if you want to stab somebody. In most cases, you need grips on the hand if you can to try something like this against somebody who's really coming with the knife.
Yeah.
I wouldn't train this.
And actually, my friend, that's what he does. He's getting full resistance and trying to do the same. Yeah, it's just like I think that's that's what would happen. Not because he's bad, but because the technique is bad.
If you want to train something like this, you should be training it like that. Yeah, I think we also have this fine motor skills.
Right. Yeah. That blocking is questionable because it can slip. That wrist throw, it's like
I wouldn't teach this kind of stuff on self-defense because it requires fine motor skills, which are every modern martial art agrees that if you are in a situation, fine motor skills are gone.
Yeah. That same stuff, right?
Yeah, I think this might be coming from, in Japan you had like lots of the older jiu-jitsu styles.
Yeah.
So this stuff is probably coming from somewhere in there.
Nobody pressure tests him basically.
And so you end up having these relics on the art. Jiu-jitsu has its strengths, and you can use jiu-jitsu for self-defense, but the techniques shown in many jiu-jitsu videos are like they are just poor techniques. But some guys are doing stuff which is done without no weapons, no knives. In most cases, they are pretty good stuff because they've been tested on the mats. And the guys who are doing it, they can pull them off. But the knife stuff in jiu-jitsu, like it's an agony to watch it.
Yeah. BJJ is so great because it's mostly pressure tested. Like there's always rolling, like every training has rolling included. But it just almost seems like the self-defense stuff, especially the knife defense, it just doesn't have that element, which is surprising.
Yeah, and it's like an added element without the actual testing.
Right.
And it's terrible to watch.
So I guess the solution would be to pressure test it?
Yeah, I think in many cases you should forget about the relics. Techniques which require fine motor skills, don't teach it for self-defense. Because the average person cannot do those things.
Right.
I might pull off some things because they are very natural to me, but that's like, it doesn't come from 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. If you want to see how me and my BJJ coach pressure tested Aikido knife defense techniques, click on this video right here. Thank you for watching, and as always, I wish you to own your journey.